We're here, we're queer, and we're already changing the world. Welcome to the Queer Changemakers podcast, where each episode I interview a LGBTQ plus individual who is out there taking action to make a difference in our communities and beyond. So today, our guest is Dr. James Proetz. Would you be willing to give a short introduction about who you are?
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing for the community in terms of just bringing greater awareness of people involved and projects out there. I'm Dr. James Proetz. As you mentioned, I was a chiropractor. I've retired, and I did that for over 40 years. Now I'm focused on my coaching business, which is transformational coaching, with a particular emphasis on the gay community in terms of addiction recovery, supporting people with tools when they get stuck and obstacles that come up that prevent them from having more success in their lives. So with that, one of my tools is to do Facebook Lives or to do YouTube broadcasts, and that's all in the works to put out there. So with that said, it's back to you, sir.
All right. Well, I'm glad you are here. And yeah, this is the first time I'm doing one of these podcasts live streamed into this Facebook group. So I'm glad I'm helping you with those future goals too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as a queer person, we're recording this in September 2023. A lot has happened in our community this year and over the past decades. So the first question I'd like to start with is, what's a vision you have for the future of our queer community, for the next step?
Wow. That's a really good focus to have. My past experience was serving on the Long Beach Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, which originally started as Long Beach Community Business Network way back in the 90s, last century. I love using that term, last century. And I served in various capacities in that. And one of those is holding a vision of bringing more awareness to our community. One of it is in terms of promoting businesses, and helping just to get people more aware of the businesses here and how important it is to tap into the gay and lesbian community, the LGBTQ plus community, in terms of providing services, products to them, as well as buying the products and services of our community. So the vision I have is one, helping people promote that.
Okay. Part of me wants to push a little deeper, so I will.
Sure.
So when you say that, so let's say you have a magic wand, right? So you can look at how things are now. What would be an awesome vision for five years from now?
5 years from now, for myself, it would be to have my coaching business very well established, to being networked with other gay coaches, gay and lesbian coaches, as well as tapping into the other business communities around the country, if not globally. And then how I would measure that, how it could be measured is, part of it is like on social media, the numbers that are in my Twitter account or on Facebook account, things like that, Instagram, and who knows what's coming, in the future in social media. And also to just have clients that I feel I've really helped them with, and not just business wise. It's also reaching in support of seniors, because seniors get more and more isolated, especially in the gay community. That happens. So it's really important to create a connection between younger gay community with the older. And I know that those are projects going around the country. That's one thing I would love to see more of. And just creating more cohesiveness and networking.
Okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. I do think um there's not always a good space. Most spaces aren't intergenerational. The spaces for people above a certain age, within a certain age, and be younger. But you don't always have the crossing of that, because I think there's a lot of history in our community.
Yes.
Due to sort of the AIDS pandemic and crisis, a lot of history has been lost. A lot of the people who started these things aren't here anymore and didn't have the opportunity to put their stuff on social media so we could find it.
Right. Yeah. If I could, just a short story of in my history, when I first came to realization that I was different, was I I felt different in high school, but it was really getting into college, because that was right around 70, 71, which is when a lot of the movement started. And it was still during a time when being homosexual was a mental illness, or it actually had a classification in DMSO, I think is the diagnostic code book. I might be wrong in those initials, but it's like, so when I came out to my parents, it was very challenging for them, because all they knew was that it was wrong. My father was police chief in St. Paul and also in a suburb of Minneapolis. And his whole background was, I remember looking in some of his textbooks, and it's like homosexuality was a perversion. So it's like, it had to be very challenging for them, as loving as they were, and all the opportunities they gave me. It was like, that still was like, oh my God, what do you do with that? So that's
Wow.
just a little thing I wanted to share of where I come from.
Cool. Well, with that, we can transition into there as well. So
Sure.
you mentioned that you're a chiropractor for 40 years. You mentioned that now you are a coach and helping people deal with sort of addiction and more.
Right.
Uh, well, overcome addiction and more.
Right.
Um, how did you get into this? Yeah, I'd like to hear a little more about your story, and I guess having a father who's a police chief.
Yes.
Is a
Well,
couple-
the thing is, I'm grateful that I had that experience with my father, because I don't have, I think, what many people, the bias they have towards the police, because I have a different experience. I do know, as in all professions, there's some really bad folks.
Mhm.
That's in any, even in the gay community, there's some really, just bad personalities. So that was helpful for me to at least have some tolerance with that. Um, but my struggle, as when I was coming out, was I immediately got involved with a religion, which it didn't condemn homosexuality. It just, there was no way to express it. You couldn't, have a partner and be open about it. And I battled with that. It was like, oh, how do I handle that? And then it got into drinking and abusing drugs. Most of it was pot, but it was like, still, if it was something to alter my consciousness, I was willing to experiment with it. And so that got me into 12-step groups and into the whole recovery realm. And for that, I'm very grateful. And one of the things that I was very grateful with 12-step program is that it was a God or higher power of my understanding. It's like I got to relate how I want it. And that's how I believe it is for everyone. I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know what God is. It's like, that's the power that created me. It's like, how can I know? And yet we try. There are times when we get just sucked into that, human mentality of, well, I've got to put it in a box and this is what God is. And so it was very helpful to realize that I should always question that. I should always question my beliefs and to find, because the art is in the question. It's not in the answer. The answer is just an answer. It's not the answer. However, questions lead us to explore so many things. It just, questions look at the possibilities. Answers suddenly start looking at probabilities and eliminating this and eliminating that. And it's like, I have a difficult time with that to just go, this is the truth. You know, it's like, oh my gosh.
I also grew up in a religious environment, a conservative Christian environment, and the idea that we have the truth, which means we have the answers. So even when it comes to questions, certain questions aren't allowed. Take that back. Certain questions may just be wrong questions. If it didn't fit within our answers, it's a bad question, and you probably shouldn't go down that way. I do appreciate that, the fact that you like to be able to question our beliefs and be able to, you know, go a little bit further. Because even when it comes to God, right, you have something that infinitely big. We have to, you can't put it in a box. And we try, and sometimes maybe just asking that question gives them a little more curiosity,
Yes.
more room for growth and expansion.
Because it does astound me that I would think I would know what God is when we are just not even a point or a speck in this universe. I mean, it's like, this universe is so friggin' huge. I mean, it's like we cannot even comprehend. And that's just this dimension. There's multiple dimensions. And it's like, oh, can anyone claim to have the truth? It's like you may have a truth. And oftentimes, and for me, I need to check myself to make sure where the perception is coming from. Is it out of fear? Is it out of, well, a lot of it is fear, you know, that I have to question, like, why would I, what am I afraid of? To just be open. And it also helps, you know, when we talk with people who have different opinions, because I have, you know, it's like I'm not that successful or masterly with it, but it's like I try to remember, like, what if I was in their shoes? You know, I mean, it's like, and had all their experiences, would I be any different in my opinions? And what do I need? And if I was in their shoes, what would I need to really change? You know, to just, or, you know, what? So for me, it's like not telling someone they're wrong. It's like just asking questions. And that can be very challenging for people. You know, it's like,
I can definitely see that, like in the directions where I come from, or more recently in terms of like marketing and trying to connect to your audience, you know, it's not about you or your program or what you're doing, but it's like
yeah,
connect to where someone else is. Even if it can help them, but they don't see, if your program's over here and they're over here, you know, you might have to build that path for them to get there.
exactly.
I think
I just think of when because you have offered like challenges for marketing and things like that, 5-day challenges, whatever.
Mhm.
And so I sent you a message asking, when is your next one? And your response was, well, what is it that I'm looking for in marketing or in that? And it's like, that's exactly, you're exemplifying that, of finding out what I want, what I need, you know, because, you know, I mean, in your mind, it's like, well, you need this, this, and this, and you could go there, or you go, well, what is it that you need? Let's have a conversation about this. You know, tell me about you.
Yeah, because I think similar to how we can all understand who God is for us, right? Different
Right.
people, the way we experience the world and life based on our upbringing and just the way we are, we might need different things, right? Like two people can start, even two people who start at the same place may need a different next step to get where they want to go. I
Exactly.
think that's part of the biggest, one of the most exciting parts, I'll say, opportunities in life is that, you know, there are no two paths that work for everyone. And I think, especially like as you start your coaching business and you're going in that direction, sometimes I hear people say, there's a lot of coaches, we don't need more coaches.
Right.
And then it's also like, you can be in a situation where a coach talks to you or shares an idea and it just does not resonate. It is just that person and you just, you know, you're just two ships in the water and there's nothing we have for each other. But then there's
Absolutely.
someone else can say that same thing. And then you're like, oh, really good idea. I wonder how
It
that
is. It is amazing. Yeah. And to me, it goes into the energy, the dynamics of the exchange. It's not just the words, because the words themselves are a small part. It's everything else. It's the tones, it's the visual cues, it's, you know, facial expressions. Even if we were face to face in person, it's like if I just touched you on the arm, that's a powerful communication. Touch is extremely powerful, and it's our first sense that gets developed, you know, as infants, is touch. So it's like, because we certainly are not able to focus and we don't know what sounds mean, you know, it's like, but certainly we know if a touch is comforting or threatening, you know, and we just kind of, do we move towards it or away from it? That type of thing. So
interesting. And you mentioned earlier that you were a chiropractor for 40
yeah,
years.
yes, yeah, that's
So,
well, I and when I was a little kid, it was like, I'm going to be a brain surgeon. That was, you know, because I didn't know about chiropractic. And it was like, oh, yes. And then I found out about chiropractic. My brother got involved in it. And I went and sat in on classes and I thought, oh, I like this a whole lot more than cutting people open and stuff like that. You know, it's because I was looking at, there's the natural part to it, the holistic part. Not that we need all of the different disciplines, but what I looked at was, I'd rather empower someone with the tools to take care of themselves. And then every so often, it's like you get stuck. You know, it's just like coaching. The whole purpose of coaching is not to be the coach for life, but it's like getting you through this event and giving you the tools then. And then if you need to come back, I look at it like with chiropractic, with coaching, I'm an educator. You know, and part of education, my experience, because I've been a teacher in a massage therapy school, is I learn a lot from my students. I learn a lot from my clients that I work with. I learned a lot from my patients because, you know, it's like, I thought, well, they need to do this and this and this, you know, in terms of chiropractic. And then they'd be telling me they did this. And it's like, I never even thought of that. You know, it's like, but and I wasn't threatened by it. It was like, what I did was, oh, wow, this is valuable to find out what are people doing on their own to try to, you know, deal with this. And, you know, because there's a wisdom that we all have. And so it's like, and to me, that wisdom is God, the universe speaking through them. And because it doesn't have to be spiritual. You know, it's like, I don't always use the word God because I know that puts us into, sometimes it's like, what was your background? And God is this box over here. I like using universe. I particularly for myself, I love using beloved, you know, because to me, love is the power in this universe. It's why is there gravity? well, that's love between objects. That's just kind of, but
Okay, I don't think I've heard that
it's
one
love,
before, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Gravity is just love,
Yeah,
about trying to connect.
yeah, we want to connect. It's like
Bigger
we
the
don't,
object, the more gravity it has because there's more love there.
yeah,
Um, it's definitely something I've never thought of before, but I do appreciate that. When you mentioned growing up religious and still being connected to God, and how the 12-step program was more helpful because it acknowledged a higher power. Where are you now in how would you define your religious or spiritual journey at this moment?
I, I would say, I would use the term spiritual,
Mhm.
and that needs to be defined for people because, I mean, some people spiritual is like woo woo woo, and so for me, it's basically I strive to my best ability to be connected, to look for connections with others, to feel connected with the universe, to recognize when I'm feeling disconnected, because I never cannot be connected. You and I cannot not be connected.
Mhm.
Is that right? It's
Yeah,
like we're always connected,
always connected.
whether we feel it or not. And, there's, and that's what I seek is seeing that connection. It's there. It's like we are these incredible beings, yet we choose not to necessarily see that or allow ourselves to be experiencing it. And that's kind of my mission. It's not it. Yes, I want it into the gay community because it is so needed in
Mhm.
our community, but it's needed everywhere. I mean, it's like in politics. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to
There's a
change.
lot of us
It's
versus them.
yes, and it's
Those
like
people are not us.
yes,
And it's easy to do that in any group, whether it's
I
politics as a
know.
country, whether even within your own quote unquote party or your own group or your own letter of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yes, yeah,
It's very easy to think, they are different than us.
right,
Have that separation there. And I guess it's nice
yeah.
you're able to see connection as a spiritual path.
Because to
Um,
me, that's a higher level
yeah.
to get to seek, as opposed to if I'm looking for differences. My perception of that is I'm choosing to be on survival mode because the only reason I need to see difference is there's a threat. I mean, or it's not the only reason, but that's a big motivator is, oh, they threaten me. They must be different. There's something wrong. It's like, that's something that I battle with at times is to not make judgments, to not make someone else wrong because they think differently than me, because I'm threatened. They're not threatening. There's a part of me. I'm not threatened, but there's a part of me that feels threatened. And it's like, that's for me to take care of. It's not your responsibility to take care of that.
That's very fair. And part of that hit home. I think growing up the way I did, my default is sometimes to make judgments. Is that safe? Is that
Yeah.
cool? Is that space safe? Can I go there? Should I do that? Should I not? And it's very easy for me to not be curious and ask that question, but to ask the question for the reason of judgment, or just to be like, nope, that's not me. I need to be in my own lane. So I do appreciate you sharing some of the things that I still am growing through. And
Mhm.
and as I think about your life, or as you think about your life and share, when you look back, what might you say is the biggest like challenge that you've overcome personally, professionally, or anything in between?
Well, I would say definitely one of the top ones is getting sober.
Hmm.
That was a big one. and underlying that is seeing the value in myself, and then connecting with a purpose. And the thing is, purpose and mission, those are terms that are really popular to use. It's all made up. Whatever purpose you have, it's made up. I'm not saying it's wrong when I say it's made up. It's just made up. And so choose a good one. If it's made up, choose a good one, that's going to benefit not just you, but benefit the world. But it's in kind of, and then getting into the whole transformational field, working with a lot of people that, like, with codependency, with inner child stuff. That was all like, right when I was getting into 12 steps. So it's like all of this stuff just burst forth. And that's why they say we're in the information age. And that doesn't refer just to technology. It refers to just like all this stuff that's coming into our brains, or being uncovered. That's like, yeah, we're beginning to observe this stuff. And so the first step is awareness. And then for me, I look at it as awareness, and then you need to align it with something. Is what you're observing, where does it fit into where you're going, or how you envision things? And then from there, taking action. So you have to make some type of a judgment, but it's more in terms of deciding in regards to action. Does this move me toward or away from what I value? And if it's moving me away, then perhaps pause and decide, well, what would be a better path to go? And so those are, that whole thing, it begins with awareness. And of what, for one, what do we have power over? I have power over my thoughts, my feelings or emotions, and my actions or behaviors. That's it. I don't have control over your thoughts, your feelings, even though we may have grown up hearing that language. Like, how many times have I heard growing up, don't make me mad, don't make me angry, don't make me have to come in there and punish you. It's like, and it's, so we, as children, we just assume those are truths. And then we have to realize, well, that's what my parents learned from their parents, from blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
to infinity,
Yeah.
It's
And I think that is one of the good things about the amount of information we have today, is that we are able to better understand and better have better answers to some of those questions.
Yeah.
Those questions, the answers we got were because the Bible said it, I guess, or because I said so and I'm your parent, right? So it's like they just didn't have the tools or the information. And then even sometimes I think one of the big challenges today is we have the information, but we have more than the information. So it's not just, oh, I know what the right answer is, but I have 8 different ways to know the right answer. And for some of us, that can, lead to a whole nother set of challenges of procrastination and how do I choose which is the right one? And being in like a sort of perfectionist tendency. That's amazing. That's amazing. So like, as we move now towards to where you are now,
right?
Thinking of challenges, one of the reasons why I started this podcast is to help people see the truth, the bigger picture of life. It's easy to see what's on social media. It's easy to see an Instagram reel and assume, oh, this Instagram profile is this person's life. And one of the things we don't always share on our Instagrams or places are the challenges that we're working through. challenges that we've overcome, but especially like, hey, this is something I'm wanting to learn at this moment. This is something that I'm looking for support with. And I think the more we are able to share our real journeys, one, there are other people who are experiencing the same thing who think they're the problem. Like, oh, I'm the only one doing this. No one else has
Right.
ever before. So in that direction, with everything you're working with now and doing, what's like one challenge that you're currently having? We can even just focus it on, let's say your business, let's say the coaching direction. What's one thing you're like, a problem that I wish I had a magic wand and it would just like bloop, solve
Hmm.
that.
Well, when you first started this chain of thought,
Mhm.
I immediately went to my relationship with my partner, because I think the best lab work we have for personal growth is in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like I had not been in a love relationship for a long time. And so we've now been together for over 3 years. It may even be over 4 years. And we've been living together almost 3 years. And it's like, it's a humbling experience, I'll tell you. And you get to see, oh my God, this is how my parents behaved. You get those little insights. Oh, wow. Um, or the fact, oh, I'm wrong. For those of us who like to be right, it's like, damn, I, it's like, that's a hard reality. But it's like, and I'm so grateful that it's there. It's not easy. It's not without pain and someone being hurt. Now, how I look at being hurt is that's my choice. If I get hurt by what he says, or he gets hurt by what I say, there's still some responsibility on the other person's part for choosing that. Both are responsible. But it's like, you don't hurt me because of what you said. You said something, I gave meaning to it, and then I decided, oh, I'm going to be offended by that. So
Mhm.
it's like, how do I break out of that cycle? Well, I can't stop you from saying whatever you say, but I can ask you questions about it. Like, for example, were you aware when you said that I felt hurt, or that I felt unappreciated, or, and it's like, trust me, there's an art to asking those questions, and I'm still learning about it, because there's nothing. I can remember one time with my father, it was like he got really upset about something, and I tried to use this, like, were you aware that? And man, he just turned to me and says, oh, stop, patronizing me. I mean, he just was angry about it. And then I shut up, I was silent. And in his time, which it took about a half an hour, he said, I'm sorry that I said that, and I mean, that was huge for my father to say something like that. But it was like, I realized that was his stuff. I just happened to be this sounding board for him to take a look at it. And again, it wasn't my responsibility to change him, but it was what I was responsible for. I didn't need to be hurt by his reaction. But it's also having boundaries, right? It's like, we don't let people say whatever they want. We can remove ourselves from the situation. But it's like, it's such an art. I'll tell you, relationships, it's like just juicy, I mean, it's
Mhm.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's the same with business, because business, if you want your business to be successful, you have to have relationships with people, especially in mine. It's like coaching, but it's like, it's all about this relationships and communication, regardless of what area. And if I look at my physical well-being and my health. It's my relationship with myself. Do I care enough to not continue eating sweets or feeling a need to have a dessert? And I mean, I'm on this thing right now where I don't have desserts for until November 11th. I can have a dessert, and it's like, and it's a commitment. It's a commitment. And, you know, the worst is, it's kind of like getting sober. The worst is tomorrow I'll begin again. You know, it's when I started in 12-step groups, it's like, especially in AA, it's like, how many times did you see people come in through those doors? They call them like revolving doors, you know, it's like in and out, in and out. I did it, you know, I would get 30 days and then I'd go drink. I get 60 days, whatever. And then it's kind of like you start to get some tools, you get support, you know, for what you're going through. But it's a process. And for us to learn, well, I mean, for me, what flashes in my head is like, be loving, you know, be loving of myself. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean like I like everything I do. It means that, that's a good question. How do you answer? How are you loving to yourself?
Last year was my year of coaching programs that I was in. And in one of them, you know, I think it was like the productivity coach. And then he was like, yeah, I keep a schedule. And I even wrote down the times I was procrastinating. It was like, yep. And he showed us like his schedule and was like, yep. And that time I took a little porn break and I was on porn for like 30 minutes. And then I got back and then I went to sleep early, or I did the other thing. And it was just like, it was great. And then he was like, I tell myself that I love myself even when I do the thing that I did not want to do.
Right.
And when he was sharing that, I was like, oh, that's hard. Because like where I'm coming from, or where I've been, is sort of this Christian idea of perfectionism. And it's like, no, I'm supposed to do the right thing. Dang it, I didn't do that thing. I'm a bad person. I need to be better. I need to do this. Instead of being like, and I still love me, right? Like saying those words out loud, which is easier to say right now in a conversation than like this morning when I wanted to like go to the gym early and I didn't do it, or I wanted to go grocery shopping and like, and now my time is different. I think that idea of self-love is still a lesson that I'm learning, especially in just the everyday life, and not even to mention relationships with other people.
I know, friends, family. It's like, oh my gosh.
Romantic relationships. There are lots of times where it's like, how do I best show up in this?
Yeah.
How do I say the thing that I really want to say, knowing that I am not going to hurt someone's feelings, but my words may have an impact, right? And finding that balance of how do I stay true to where I am and myself and what's going on within, and allowing other people to have their experience of the full version of me.
Yeah.
And that's a place I'm still growing. So much more growth can happen there. So much more.
Yeah, you know, Justin, when you said whether or not you're going to hurt someone, you know, by your words, it's like, yeah, it's not whether or not the words hurt, it's whether your intention was to hurt them. And that's what I have to look at, because I don't have control whether someone else gets hurt by them. But if my intention was to hurt them with my words, it's like, where is that coming from? Right? I mean, that's what I need to work on, because that's not who I want to be. And that's not who I truly am. It's like this part masquerading as me, you know, like, I'm right, you're wrong. I need you to know how wrong you are. And it's like, wow, that's not who I really am.
Yeah. And I think for me too, part of it is I make up a story that certain words I say are going to hurt someone else. So then I don't say those words. So it's not like, oh, because my intention, so like the hard part is, okay, how do I let this person know that I deeply care about them? Friends, family, romantic relationships, or whatever. Yet at
Mhm.
the same time, be honest and open and authentic about here's how I actually feel in this moment. And I think sometimes, as you think about, as you shared your experience with your father, and I'm thinking about different experiences in my own life, I can see now when I look back, maybe they did not have the words to be able to do that balance, to say, okay, I want Justin to feel cared for and loved in this moment, and I have a disagreement, and I'm going to share that out loud. And I think there's definitely times where people have not, where I was not able to directly see the care in the way that they said certain things.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes for me, I might veer too far on the other side and then say, okay, I definitely don't want to go in the wrong direction. I definitely don't want someone to feel this negative way. How do I balance this sharing myself and keeping that care there? Because, words can hurt. We can experience hurt in words, and especially within relationships. If I say something to the person outside on the corner, who cares? If I say something to the person I'm dating, very different. If I say something to my brother, you know, they're
hmm
they're different. So I think that's one of those challenges that I'm currently growing through, and I'm always trying to grow in that way. And I do see some of those challenges.
yeah. Well, and what you said in your process is we have to think about it. We have to think about it. Everything begins with a thought. So it's like to be mindful, to be aware. That's how I look. Kind of a catch term right now is mindfulness. I just look at it as awareness. If when we say be mindful, it's like be aware of your thoughts, and then it's like if you're having that thought like, oh, I really hate that person, it's like, wow, where's that coming from? Is that in alignment with who I want to be? And really figuring, and what can I do? And you may not be able to do, or one, I'll use one. I try to be mindful about not saying you but to say one, because our subconscious hears that stuff. So when I say, oh, you are angry, it's better for me to say when one is angry.
Hmm.
That's mine. That's the paradigm I want to operate from. But so when one is angry, to be mindful, to be aware of where is that anger coming from? Is it based on a truth, or is it based on a lie or a perceived truth that is a lie? Because oftentimes it's like there is so little that can really hurt us. I mean, that's what I believe. It's like, yeah, it may physically hurt me, but it's like I'm the one who like will just be all bent out of shape because of what somebody said. And it's like, I chose to do that to me. But do you realize that's such a high level of mastery to me? It's like, I'll still be learning that until I die. So that's why I plan to live a long time, because it's going to take me a long time, a long time to master that one. But it's like, that's why I think we came here to this planet, is to learn all this garbage that we've gone through, to go, oh wow, this is not what I want. It's like I want to be loving. I want to be caring. I want to be able to listen to someone. I want to give value. I want to feel that when I interact with someone, they're a little bit better. I mean, I know that's kind of blah, 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 fluffy, but it's like, wouldn't that be awesome if everyone had that idea that every time we interact, we want someone to be at least the same, if not better. That's why when I walk down the street, I I try to make contact with people when you're passing by someone. It's like, how many people just they don't look, or they're looking in their phones. And it's not that I'm not guilty of that, but it's like, there's so many opportunities, and we don't know who's passing us by that might, we've heard so many stories of how someone just made a difference in someone's life by just saying hi, by just stopping. I just, so many missed opportunities.
There's a lot. But it also sounds like you are taking more of those opportunities than the standard. And as you said, like, if everyone interacted with everyone else in a way that made the other person, help the other person become a little bit better, who knows what world we would live in.
I know.
Communities change, and further with that. Okay, as we come sort of to the end of this, or in the ending direction of this, so you mentioned that you're a coach. In the shortest way possible, what would you say would be your strength zone, your gift zones? Like, I best help these people with this issue.
I I best help people that I have gone through what they are going through now. For example, that's why working with the gay community, within the gay community, to help overcome addictions and move into recovery, that's a strength I have. And it made my life possible, because I honestly have to look at, I probably would be dead if long time ago, if I had continued. Definitely my life would be a whole lot worse, and I would have made a lot of other people miserable in the process. As a result of what I did, I know that I got to know my father, where he became, I can feel, but like my best friend, and it's like, it didn't occur until, the last couple decades of his life. And I'm grateful for that I was able to have some really loving relationships with partners to help someone, a partner of mine, to go take him home to Mexico City when he was dying from AIDS, to make sure that he was with his family. It's like, that would not have been possible for me to do that kind of stuff. And to not have regrets about that kind of stuff. So
Thank you.
There.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And it's really, life is amazing and grand and expansive. And just the idea, because I thought we were talking about recovery, and then you're like, but also getting a better relationship with my father, right? Like, in my mind, I was like, wait, where did that even come from? And then, being there for your partner, taking him back home to Mexico City. Sometimes part of the reason why I started this podcast is for me to, it's a little selfish, but no, it's for me to hear other people's stories, because there's just a lot of life and love, and like, I just love hearing people's stories. And sometimes, you get someplace that you didn't even know where you're going to start or end, but I'm glad that we're able to do this. And I look forward to seeing where your coaching business grows, and how some of the lessons you learned throughout life are all there. Like, I remember about, well, it's the first sense that we have. And it's like, oh, well, you were a chiropractor for 40 years. Of course, that would be something that resonates with you.
Yeah,
And it makes
yeah,
so much sense.
yeah. And I'd like to offer to any of your listeners uh, an opportunity to have a session with me free, because it's a gift, and it's like there's no guarantees with it. It's like, but you get to experience, one gets to experience it, and it's about, because the work I do is it's a spiritual connection, not just cognitive. And it's like I get to hear someone else's connection with God or the universe, their truth. And it's like, that's, to me, that's a gift, to hear someone else's experience of God. So anyway, but I do offer that because it's like, yeah, of course, we're given this gift, to share with the world, just as you are. You're bringing, you're making connections, connecting people to other people. That's powerful. That's one of your talents, one of your many talents.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So we will put that information in the show notes, and those in the Facebook group will see this in a comment at some point. At the end of this, I have a few rapid fire questions. So I hope you're ready.
Sure. Sure.
So question one, what is something that inspires you and why?
Something that's inspiring me now is dealing with the aches and pains in my body, just kind of joint stuff, and like not keeping me back from doing things, but also healing, to rejuvenate my body.
Okay. Love. Did not think you would go with pain for the thing that inspires you, but to each their own.
It's the most powerful motivator, I'll tell you.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Or I should say the avoidance of pain. The avoidance of pain.
Okay. And do you have a favorite self-care routine or thing that you like to do when you want to, show yourself some love? Do you have any self-care routines?
Yeah, one of them is doing the work that I do with myself. And that is just kind of checking what's causing me to think this way or feel this way, and then getting to the truth. And it's kind of like reconnecting, with the universe. So that's a prime one. And then I love rom-coms. I love rom-coms. I like happy endings, but they're so formulaic. It's like, oh, they're gonna split apart, but then they're gonna come back together. Especially if they're gay rom-coms, that's even better. But it's like, well, we're living in a straight world, so it's like, but it's like, I don't care.
Do you have a current recommendation or a recent one that you enjoyed?
No, I don't. I don't want to take time. I have been watching, is it called Mode? I don't know that it's Mode, but but the people work for this magazine, Mode.
Oh, wait.
I'm trying to think.
Ugly Betty one, or is that
it is
version of Ugly Betty?
Yeah, it's I just started watching Ugly Betty again. Okay. So it's like, yeah, that's it's fun. I like comedies. It's like, yeah.
There's a new version. There's a new show with a trans star, and I can't think of the name right now. But when it started, it very much reminded me of the Ugly Betty situation. And instead of whatever magazine it is, Kim Cattrall, she runs like a makeup.
Oh yes, I do love that one.
And I haven't started. I watched like the first 10 minutes and paused it because I was gonna watch it later. And then
I think you'll like it. I've watched. I'll have a tendency to binge stuff like that because I don't want to wait. My partner goes like, no, then they'll be all over. And I go, but then there'll be something else we can.
That's that's fair. That's fair. Okay, cool. It's September now, but do you have a favorite moment of Pride or summer? I don't know when Pride is celebrated where you are.
Normally, Long Beach was a kickoff in May
Oh,
for
wow.
for centuries, for decades, and it was always fun to participate in that. We
Mhm.
just had one in August, but we also had one that was kind of just an awareness thing, and that was really fun because I got to see a lot of the gay-owned businesses there, and it's like being of support, like buying stuff or going to a restaurant that's gay-owned. It's like I love doing that. There's just, our dollars, using our dollars where it matters.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, three other questions that I was going to ask, but I have to choose the best one. So, one, do you have a favorite joke or something you recently laughed at?
Uh, well, my cats make me laugh. So it's like they do stuff uh, just all the time. That's all I could say. It's just, and on YouTube, watching cats and dogs just like do stuff that's just hilarious.
Mhm.
They're amazing. And they, yeah.
Love, love animals, love animals. Is there a queer change maker, a queer person that you just look up to that inspires you?
Oh, well, the person that comes to my mind, um, it's like in in business. Well, I know one, um, Suzanne Evans. She was with Driven Business
Okay.
School. I did Driven Business School a year and a half or so ago, and I I admire her because she's very open about it. She doesn't flaunt it, but it's like she doesn't hide it. It's just like, it's kind of like, I don't have to go up to someone and say, I'm gay. It's like, it's,
Mhm.
because straight people don't come up to me and go, I'm straight. It's like, but it's like, she just has done so much and impacted a lot of people. I really admire her for the work that she's still doing. So,
That's awesome. I fell into one of her challenges last year. Um, and yeah, the same thing. Cause I was like, I want to find queer entrepreneurs out there doing stuff. And it was like really hard to find. And then I went to one of her things, and then I went to one of her live events, and then she was talking about her wife, and I was like, what this whole time? But also I appreciated how she taught and what she was doing. But it was also just like sometimes it's nice to know that there are the queer people out there doing things, which
yeah.
is sub tagline for this podcast: queer people doing things. And and I love that. I love that. Okay, and I guess my final question for you is: do you have a piece of advice or guiding word of wisdom for those who may listen to this, LGBTQ plus individuals, maybe who see some issues in the world, and want to take action but haven't taken action yet?
The first thing that came to my mind is get a mentor, get someone that you can follow, especially in whatever it is action that you want to do. Find someone who's done that or is in that arena. Get a gay mentor for one. So that one, we're not alone. You're not I'm speaking to the individual, you're not alone. And that's why I make my offer, because you're not alone. It's like if someone hadn't taken the time for me when I was and helped me get sober, if there hadn't been gay AA, it's like, yeah, I would have gotten sober, but it would have been a very different experience. And I had this one mentor in AA, and he said, if you go to an AA meeting it makes it a gay AA meeting because you're there, and it's like, yes, of course. It's a gay meeting because I'm here. It actually, like, yeah, I count, I matter, I make a difference. This world is gay because we're here.
Okay.
It's a gay world.
It is. And there are still closets for some. So who knows? You might be the fifth gay person at
Absolutely.
that meeting without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You don't have to proclaim it. It's a gay meeting.
but
Yeah.
that's awesome. I like that. Find the gay mentor. Um, wow. Well, James, Dr. James, thank you so much for taking the time out to come and
Absolutely.
be a
Thank
part of
you.
this conversation. Also, thank you for being the first one done live in a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like there's always things that could go wrong, and I hate doing things live just for that reason. But it's been a good time. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey, and what you're doing. There's so many things you brought up that resonate with me, and especially just sort of the connection piece, right? Like, connection is God, is love. We're always connected, whether or not we can see it.
Yeah.
And you know just being there, because even with your advice of finding a mentor, it's like, stay in connection, right? Have that physical
Yeah.
contact, see and experience, because it can help you go through and help you go farther. So
Yeah.
thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your offer. I will definitely be putting information in the show notes so people can contact you. um
Thank you.
uh
Just one more thing, Justin.
or-
You're amazing.
Thank you so much. I
You are.
accept that. I
Thank
receive
you.
it. Thank you so much. I
You are.
accept that. I
Thank
receive
you.
it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Queer Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Justin Mezitin, and I hope that you're able to learn from what you just heard and think of ways that you yourself can also make change in your community for the better. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.